Alright, so Sunday's games for week 2 besides the Bears Texans at the time of editing this game is still happening. And I have to get started off with my team. What an absolute embarrassment. I mean, I just cannot believe this game at all. I know the Saints destroyed the Panthers last week, but at the same time, last season, they were 9-8. We should have beaten this team. Maybe not blowout, but we should have at least made it a competitive game. But instead, we lost by 25 points. Now, of course, people are going to blame this game on Dak Prescott, and I'm just going to say it was not his fault. He obviously could have played better, but this game was far from Dak Prescott's fault. I know the stats, they don't look great, and they honestly don't. Almost 300 yards, only a touchdown and 2 interceptions. Now, stats don't lie, but they also don't tell the full story. That first interception they had, they were driving to the end zone on their final drive of the first half. They're losing by 11, and the receiver fell, and that caused the Dak Prescott interception. If he doesn't fall, it's at least an incompletion. But besides that, the other one was we were already losing by 22 up to that point. The game was pretty much over. So Dak Prescott, this was not his fault. He obviously could have played better, but this game was not his fault at all. Now, who was to blame for this game? Obviously, the defense. We allowed 44 points from the New Orleans Saints. Now, again, the Saints looked pretty good against the Panthers in week 1, but they were playing the Panthers, so it should be a passive game. But now, the Saints are looking like one of the best teams in the NFL after this week. A 25-point win. Alvin Kamara. This isn't 2020 Alvin Kamara. This isn't prime Alvin Kamara. This is washed up 2024 Alvin Kamara, who absolutely torched us today. 20 carries, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and he also had another 65 yards and a touchdown through the air. It's just absolutely insane. I've seen a lot of people now compare this year to 2020, and the only wow, I stuttered, but anyway, the only difference with 2020 is that we actually scored points in garbage time. We scored nothing during garbage time, which does concern me a little bit, but this defense is the worst I've seen since 2020. I remember last week when we held the Browns to 17 points, I remember everyone saying, man, this defensive coordinator, I forgot his name, but this defensive coordinator might already be better than Dan Quinn. Now everyone's saying they miss Dan Quinn. Honestly, I have no idea. Time will just have to tell. We had games like this with Dan Quinn as well. I don't know, man. This just is not a good look. Derek Carr was also really good today. Almost 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. After, during the game, watching the game, he looked really, really good. And honestly, after week 2, I'd have him as my MVP. Derek Carr, MVP. His 2016 form is back. And as a Cowboys fan, like I've said, this game was super frustrating to watch. It was just all game long. Touchdown, scoring, touchdown. It was so frustrating, but I've said enough. I'm so mad. So through 2 weeks, I'd have Derek Carr as my number 1 option for MVP, but at number 2, I'd have Baker Mayfield. On Sunday, Baker Mayfield had an alright game passing. He threw for 185 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, but he was also the rushing leader for the Buccaneers on Sunday, and he also ran it in for a touchdown, and he helped beat the Lions 20-16, and he's had a crazy comeback story, crazy turnaround story. Being a Baker Mayfield lover right now, I said this in my last video, but being a Baker Mayfield lover, being a Baker Mayfield supporter feels great right now. Before we move on, something crazy that happened this game was that Aiden Hutchinson had 4.5 sacks, and 3 of those came in the first half, and he's looking pretty good in his 3rd season. Now, easily the most forgettable game this Sunday was the Browns versus Jaguars, where the Browns won 18-13, and this was a very bad quarterback game. Now, Deshaun Watson was in it, which is not shocking if we're talking about bad quarterback duels, but he did look better. That's not saying a lot, but he did look a little better. And honestly, like I said earlier, being a Baker Mayfield supporter is looking really good right now. Well, being a Trevor Lawrence supporter looks really bad right now. Wait, did I say being a Baker Mayfield supporter looked bad? I meant good. If I said bad, I meant good. But being a Trevor Lawrence supporter looks horrible right now, and I am a part of that group. It really isn't looking good. The Jags should have easily won this game. One of the upsets that happened this week was the Ravens losing to the Raiders 26-23, and Gardner Minshew led the victory. The stats don't look impressive. 276 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, but Gardner Minshew was born to be a Raider. If you know his personality, I mean, look at him right there. He was born to be a Raider. Al Davis would love this, and I know it's only been 2 games, but I've believed this before the season even began. I think Gardner Minshew can lead the Raiders to a 9-8 record and possibly a playoff berth. I know that might sound crazy, but I truly believe that. Their rookie first-round pick, tight end Brock Bowers, was also pretty good this game, 9 receptions for 98 yards, and this won't even be his best game all season long. I think he's only going to get better from here on out, and I think this was a really good pick for the Raiders. I can't wait to see what Brock Bowers does in the NFL. But this is going to lead to a very interesting game next Sunday with the Ravens and Cowboys. These two teams are contenders going into the season who have honestly fallen short of expectations, losing games they really shouldn't have, and this is going to be a very interesting matchup. It's going to be a very disappointing ending for one of these teams. The Titans lost to the Jets 24-17 on the last drive of the game, and Will Levis somehow did it again, giving us an all-time classic photo where it's 3rd and goal and Will Levis is getting sacked. All he needs to do is just hang onto the ball and they get points, but instead this dude decides to not go down, flip up, like pretty much levitate off the ground, flip it backward to Tyjae Spears, which isn't obviously going to work, and he fumbled the ball. The Jets got the ball, giving us this photo. This is pretty funny. Now, it's not as good as this one. You can use this reaction for about any scenario you can think of, but it's still a classic. I want to talk about Bryce Young real quick, and it's honestly just getting sad. Out of any quarterback in the NFL, he is easily in the worst situation right now, and his stats don't show any signs of being good or anything like that. 245 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. If he leaves Carolina, I don't think he's going to be like Mahomes or Allen, but I think he can be a pretty decent quarterback, at least top 15, but we're going to have no idea because he's stuck in Carolina in one of the worst situations a quarterback could possibly be in ever, and I just feel bad for him at this point. I know y'all watch my videos because y'all like football and might not want to hear me talk about this, and that's fine if you don't want to hear me, just skip it along, but I want to say something. Bryce Young said that he has faith in the Lord through the situation and he's proud of the challenge, and everyone's taking this the wrong way. People are making fun of him. I mean, that's going to happen, but people are also just kind of hating on him for it, and it's really sad because this is probably a test on his character right now, and he's continuing to have faith in the situation, and that's the best thing you can do in this situation. It's probably really hard on him right now, but he's taking it the right way, and Bryce Young, keep doing that, and no matter what situation you're in, bad or good, always have faith in the Lord. I said earlier that the Bears-Texans game was going on. Well, it ended a while back now, and the Texans won 19-13, and everyone is talking about Caleb Williams and how bad he did, and I can't lie, he didn't do too well, but also the O-line was also very bad. He got sacked 7 times, and he looked a lot better compared to the Titans game. He was getting the ball out faster. It looked like he had an idea of what he was doing. He still didn't play too well though, but I mean, that's a part of being a rookie, and the difference between him and Bryce Young, Caleb Williams is more athletically gifted and he knows what to do in situations and all that, so I think he'll get better at that. And also, he's in a much better situation where his team can win games and he has weapons around him. So I'm not too worried through these first 2 games. Obviously, you want to be better, but I think there's still hope for Caleb Williams, obviously. We have, 15 more games? Yeah, he'll be fine. Going from one rookie to another, it seemed like the Cardinals finally remembered that Marvin Harrison Jr. was on their team, as dude went off, 4 receptions, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I greatly needed that. I have him in one of my fantasy leagues, and he did wonders for me, but he's going to be a problem in the NFL. And the Cardinals beat the Rams 41-10. That's absolutely insane. The Cardinals, I think they could be pretty good this year. I mean, they hung it in there with a pretty good Bills team. They destroyed the Rams. I know they're dealing with injuries, but still. The Commanders beat the Giants 21-18, and if you hear that score 21-18, you'd think that the Commanders scored 3 touchdowns, right? No, their kicker went 7 for 7 on field goals. Kicking 7 field goals in one game is absolutely insane. Also in this game, Malik Neighbors had his first 100-yard game as he had 10 receptions, 127 yards, and 1 touchdown. And he's going to be pretty good in the NFL. Not as good as Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think he's going to be pretty good. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think Daniel Jones should be the starting quarterback at all for the Giants. I think they're much better off with somebody else, and he should have been gone maybe last year, maybe even 2021. But in his defense, he's never had a real #1 wide receiver, and honestly, if he just throws to Malik Neighbors all game or anything like that, I don't think he'd be all too bad. I mean, my point stands through the stat line. He only threw to Malik Neighbors all game, and he had 178 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. So Daniel Jones just throw to Malik Neighbors all game long, and that's a huge step up from his atrocious game last week. I mean, he looked like the worst quarterback in the NFL. Anyway, that's about it for today's video. Bye.